Okay, our induction process allows for each inductee to select a particular person who has had a role in their development here at McNairy Central. Our first presenter will be Coach Brian Brown. Coach Brown is a 1977 graduate of MCHS, where he was a two-sport athlete, lettering all 4 years in baseball and basketball. Coach Brown is a member of the Bobcat Basketball 1,000 Point Club, named All-District, All-West Tennessee, and honorable mention All-State in basketball in 1977. In baseball, he was named to Who's Who All-American in baseball in 1977. Coach Brown attended Dyersburg State Community College, played both baseball and basketball, received his master's degree in administration and supervision from the University of Tennessee at Martin in 1982, and began his coaching career at Hollis Powell, then spent 5 years as a boys and girls coach at Selma Middle School, with an overall record of 103 wins and 39 losses, 7 county championships. From there, Coach Brown moved on to McNairy Central, where he has coached for 12 years. His record at McNairy Central is 145-42, with 2 district championships, 2 region championships, 6 sub-state titles, and 2 state tournament appearances. He later coached at Dyersburg for 8 years with an overall record of 145-94. Coach Brown has been named District Coach of the Year 10 times and the Jackson Sun Coach of the Year 2 times, in 1991 and again in 2012. Please help me welcome Coach Brian Brown.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate all of you coming out tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank this committee that at some point decided to organize and recognize throughout the history of the school some of the greatest athletes, coaches, and contributors. I can honestly say I'm very proud to be a graduate of 1977 and to be back here for the second time as a coach. I'm very proud to say I'm a Bobcat. I'm very proud to see these people tonight, as well as those that's been previously inducted, because they were truly great representatives of our program. And, you know, as a coach on a day-to-day basis, I can remember 1987, 88, my first year here. One of the standards that we used in our program was that first team that went to the state tournament. You know, we wanted Mike Walker and Jamie Wolf and Rodney Amos to strive to be like that team. And then when we were fortunate enough to get there in 91, then that became the standard. We wanted teams after that to strive to be like the 91 team. And then when we got there in 96, and that group went from a 10-win season the year before, and we brought the same players back, and they won 25 games and made it to the state in 1996. Then they became the standard. Now, unfortunately, I'm unhappy to tell you that the last district championship that was won here in boys basketball was in 1997. And so we've got a lot of work to do. In fact, when I talked to them at the pep rally last year, our seniors, I think, were maybe 1 year old the last time our boys won a district championship. So we've got to rekindle that fire. We've got to do some things in our boys basketball program to relive the past. And we hope through the athletic department this year, we want to bring that 83 team back one night. We want to bring the 91 team back one night. We want to bring that 96 team back. And hope that our young men, and some of them are out here serving tonight, and I apologize if they dropped anything in your lap, because consistently we dropped some things in practice. But we talk about those things. We want to cherish our past, our tradition, in order to motivate these young men and women to aspire to do great things that we know that we can do again. And it's been a while, but I really appreciate the committee doing that. And it's just great to be a part of this. I'd like to congratulate Wilbur Jean and Sherry and Chad, naturally Ross and Kenny. Just a little story about Wilbur Jean. He was not only a contributor here, but he'd keep the score for the county tournament. So we're at the county tournament, Mickey, several boys playing Raymer. Randy Ropen's coaching Raymer. I'm coaching several middle, and we've got a young referee from Henderson County who he wanted to make sure everybody knew he was in charge of the game. Mr. Webb, you probably remember some umpires like that. Well, this young man, I think Randy just made a real innocent comment to him, something about his vision. And the referee didn't like it, so he jumps on Randy. And he comes down the other end, he makes a worse call against us. And I said, you know, I hope you didn't buy a ticket because you're missing a really good game. So he moves to me, so he starts chewing on me. So there's a timeout, that young official comes to the scores table, and I hear Wilbur Jeans say this: "Best thing you can do, young man, is just call the game, leave these coaches alone." That's a true story. So Wilbur Jeans was our scorekeeper. He kind of helped us keep those officials straight. And I want that 83 team to know that when I came up as a basketball coach, when Coach Horton moved up to athletic director, many times we talk about teams and coaching and that type of thing, and he really talked in glowing terms about that group of young men. And I think so many times we don't talk about the type of people. There is a correlation between the type of people you work with and your success. And I know you talked about 4 young men playing college basketball. That helps, and we all know that. You've got to have the horses to run the race. But the difference between those people that have the horses that win and the ones that have the horses and don't win is the character and the unity and the teamwork. And in no other sport that I know of is teamwork so important. And I've coached them all, and I've played 2 of them. And basketball is so important to have those characteristics. So I commend you guys, and certainly we hope to see you again during the season. But I've got the opportunity tonight to present a young man, Ross Shelton. Ross is a nephew, but like I told my sons, and I coached all 3 of those, and I coached a couple of nephews, they were never my nephew in practice. And I think Ross and Scott would tell you that. I think my 3 sons, that when they were in the gym, they were my player. I never allowed my nephews, I never allowed my sons to call me dad, because I was not dad at basketball practice. So, but Ross was the epitome, and I'm not so sure, and I'm not trying to discredit anybody, but I'm not so sure if he wasn't the best 3-sport athlete we've ever had at this school. And we'll talk about records and stuff in just a minute, but the thing that I think Ross helped change at this school was the culture of the multi-sport athlete. And Ross was not only a 3-sport athlete, he was one of the best players in each sport that he played. But what Ross really brought was this work ethic. And a typical day for Ross in the summer would be go to the weight room and lift weights in the morning. And then midday or afternoon, he'd come into the gym and we'd play basketball games in our summer league. And then they'd run out the door, pulling their baseball uniforms on to go play baseball. And that so many times in the summer was all on the same day. But not once did I ever hear Ross complain. He looked at it as an opportunity. And he not only did it, but he pulled along some athletes with him. And we really changed that culture here. And I hope we get back to that. And this society needs to get back to that. We need to encourage our young men and women to play all the sports they want to play. And we're starting to hear that from Urban Meyer. Ohio State had more multi-sport athletes on their roster last year than any NCAA football team. And they're the national champs. We hear it from our baseball coaches. Buck Showalter doesn't want a kid that started playing baseball at age 5 and that's all he played. He wants a pitcher that's played other positions. He wants a pitcher that's had his nose bloodied, so to speak. So what Ross and that group of young men were doing, they were developing a culture here that was cool to play all the sports. And what they decided is that if they played 3 sports, they did 3 times the work. You know, today sometimes we have kids that either want to play 1 sport or they want to play 2, but they only do 1 sport worth of work. But what Ross was able to do was help pull along some young men with him to make it cool to play multi-sports. And I think that was the biggest impact that he had. He was one of the most competitive. And I could always relate to that because that's kind of how I was wired. He was one of the most cerebral, very smart player. In whatever sport it was, Ross knew and understood and studied the game. And obviously he was one of the most hard-working kids that I've ever worked with here or anywhere I've coached. I don't remember him missing a practice. I don't remember ever missing a game. Give you an example. We basketball coaches are big on, especially early in the year, we're stressed. We won't get our full team until football season is over. So in Ross's senior year, we had 4 starters that were football players. For some reason, Coach Lott put Hardin County on Monday night for our first game. I'm sure Coach Lott did it. I wouldn't have done that. So Ross didn't play at Page. They get beat by 1 point his senior year. So being the nice guy I am, I give them Saturday off. So we practice Sunday afternoon. We open up with Hardin County on Monday night. We win that game, and we've had 1 day of practice, and Ross has a triple-double. So much for preseason basketball practice, right? But the truth of the matter was, Ross was at Raymer, or he was in his front yard, and he was shooting the basketball, handling the basketball, even during football season. So that was a testimonial to him. I'd like to tell you a true story, too. We're playing Bolivar here in football. I'm sitting up in the stadium at the 50-yard line, and they're blitzing almost every play. Ross is playing quarterback. We're in that spread offense, and they're hitting Ross on every play. So he's dropping back to pass, and he's throwing, and they hit him late. There's no flags. And I'm getting worried. He's my point guard in basketball. So needless to say, by the time the half ended, I made it from the 50-yard line to the field house, and as the officials came by, I said, look, guys, I would like for us to win this football game, but that's not my biggest concern. Please don't let my point guard get hurt tonight. And so the officials thought that was kind of funny, and true story. First series of the second half, Ross drops back to pass. He gets hit, and they throw the flag. So at least they protected my point guard. I did share with Coach Browder, who he played football for, and Coach White, who he played baseball for 4 years. Coach Browder just passed this along. He was unable to be here tonight, but he said Ross was certainly one of the most deserving football players that he ever had, and certainly he was one of the most deserving to ever get this award. And he played 3 years of varsity football. He was one of the only players to ever make All-State at 2 different positions. He was made All-State as a wide receiver his sophomore year, and he was All-State as a quarterback. So Coach Browder talked in glowing terms of his experience with Ross. Coach White did not start Ross initially as a freshman. He was a center fielder, and he said he put him in the game at Adamsville early in the year, and he was running down balls that he and Coach Lott didn't think any center fielder could get to. So he pretty quickly after the start of the season moved him to a starting position in baseball. Ended up playing shortstop his senior year. Ross holds 5 school records in baseball still for most at-bats, runs, hits, doubles, and stolen bases. In football, I'm not going to list all those, but it looks like this. He has 4 records in football for games. So he has a record per game in 4 different statistics. He has 6 season records, and he holds 5 career records in football. In basketball, he holds 2 school records, one for the season and 1 for career. He's the only athlete that we know of, that Jeff York knows of, that holds school records in all 3 sports. Some of Ross's awards, and I'd like to back up just a little bit. The academic part, Ross was 7th in his class, had a GPA of 3.91. He went on to play football and baseball both at Cumberland University, and Ross was definitely an example of a student athlete. But here's some of his awards, and some of these caught me by surprise. I left in 1999, and I really couldn't really appreciate all the things that was happening at that time. But as Jeff so eloquently researched for me, here are a few of them. He's, as I said earlier, the only MCHS athlete to hold school records in 3 sports. He's the only MCHS MCHS football player to make All-State in those two positions I mentioned. He was voted Athlete of the Year his junior year by the Tennessee Sports Writers. He was Best of West Athlete of the Year both his junior and senior years. He was named Jackson's Son Athlete of the Year in 1999. He was only the second male athlete we've ever had get that distinguished award. The first one was Corey Porter. He was a Mr. Football finalist his senior year, and he was also a finalist for the Wendy's High School Heisman. At this time, I'd like to present to you the 2015 inductee, Ross Shelton.
Thank you, Coach Brown. First off, I'd like to start by thanking all of you for coming out to support the other inductees tonight. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Board for nominating me for this prestigious honor. In my interview with Jeff York, he asked me what this meant to me, and I really can't put it into words what an honor it is to be here tonight. I want to congratulate the other inductees who are here. I'm very humbled and honored to share the stage with these individuals who all had tremendous careers at McNairy Central. I'm also honored to share a place with the past inductees. So I'd like to take the time to thank my wife and kids for being here tonight on this special occasion. I hope seeing me up here tonight will add some credibility to all the stories that they had to hear tonight. I want to say thank you to my wonderful parents who've always come out to support me and everything I attempted in my life. They showed tremendous dedication and unselfishness, and I don't think I could have been blessed with a more encouraging support system. I want to thank my brothers for not only being here tonight, but for pushing me throughout my life. I don't think I ever faced an opponent that was as tough as the two guys I went against every day. I want to say thank you to my extended family that's all here tonight. They were just as supportive and present throughout my life. I know that I could not have done all of these things without their guidance and encouragement. And I'm sure if you've attended a McNairy Central basketball game in the last 20 years, you've heard their encouragement. And in fact, they've been known to encourage a few referees. As far as this award, I want to start by thanking God for blessing me with the ability to play sports and really keeping me healthy throughout my career. I don't think anything I've accomplished in my life could have been done without a strong Christian upbringing and a constant protection from our Lord and Savior. As we unfortunately saw this year with our football team, sports can be taken away from us at any time. And so I am very appreciative that He allowed me to play every day. When I found out that I'd been nominated for the Hall of Fame, I started thinking back to some of the accomplishments that we've had as a program during my career, and it's only fair to give a lot of the recognition to the people that I played with. For all the passes I made in my career, there was always somebody on the other end that had to catch it. And in particular, Blake Maxton is somebody I'd like to thank about 85 times in football. All three sports that I played were team sports. So I recognize that I could not stand here today without those teammates. And so while I do accept this honor, I do so on behalf of the people I played with. I want to thank each and every one of my coaches who've had an influence on my life through the years, starting with Coach Roten and Coach Prince at Rammer. I want to thank Coach Browder, Coach Brown, and Coach White for all the time and energy they spent making me the player that I was. I want to thank all the assistant coaches who spent time with me and worked with me. I want to thank all of them for constantly pushing me to be better and work harder than I would have worked on my own. I also want to thank them for their work prior to me getting here. I was very fortunate to play in an era where McNairy Central had three very strong programs, which made all of my accomplishments a lot easier. They were all wonderful mentors and have left a lasting impression on my life. And I look back now, and I think about some of the great stories that have taken place in my time at McNairy. And as a coach last year, I had the chance to hear some of the boys complain about how hard the coaches were now. And I just had to laugh when one of them told me how easy it must have been playing during my time. And I was quick to tell them that they weren't in the locker room at halftime with Coach Browder when Wheelit Adams would score for the first time in 17 years. And we were winning that game 42-6 at halftime. I told them they weren't at Corinth the time Coach Brown kicked the sole of his shoe off during one of his halftime pep talks and was forced to limp the sideline the rest of the game. Or the time that Coach White made us all run foul post before a game because we all decided we weren't going to shave. You know, I look back now, and at the time, as a 17-year-old kid, those were some of the worst experiences that I could think of. But they're some of the best memories that I have, and each one of those has helped mold me into the man that I am today. Well, it's at least given me thicker skin. So I just want to say that McNairy Central will always have a special place in my heart. Thoroughly enjoyed my time here. Grateful for this honor. Basically, I would like to say that the only regret that I've ever had is that we don't have a state championship banner hanging in the gym. And that's the only thing that I believe I would change if I could ever go back, is just to win one state title for the school. In closing, Jeff York asked me to share one of my favorite stories from high school, and it just so happens to come from my freshman year and involve a very special person. As many of you know, I did not grow up in a football family. We loved UT football when it was good, but we did not play it at any of our family get-togethers. We were a basketball and baseball family, so it was a huge shock that I could actually play football. And it was fun for everybody in junior high, but the fear of me getting hurt was just too great in high school. So prior to my freshman year, my grandmother, Joyce Brown, offered me $1,500 to quit football and focus on basketball and baseball. And it was really hard for a 14-year-old to turn down that kind of money. But luckily I did, and had a wonderful football career. But, you know, I must tell you that after my first basketball practice, I realized she wasn't